Well, hello everyone. I hope y'all having a good day. I've got an interesting thing I want to show you about this man named Larry Ballard. Liberty Crusade is his book. He's a very interesting guy, and I met him in person a few times, and he lives fairly close to between Springfield and Branson. So I wanted you to see his work. Let me move myself out of the way a little bit and show you a little bit about him. Well, that's what I've had written about him. Let me play that.
Larry Ballard, author of Liberty Crusade, The Fight to Save the Free World, speaks about his near-death experience in 1968 in which God showed him America's present circumstances and the future of America and other nations. Larry Ballard explains how his message contained in Liberty Crusade will open the eyes of Americans and help them break free from our current slavery system and re-establish the American economic system. Larry uses his knowledge of history and the Bible to show how our rights have been systematically stripped away and how we can restore our rights and freedoms.
Yeah, his book is very interesting. He has a really good way of explaining things, and he uses slideshow images, something that I need to practice doing. Um, yeah, over the years, I've been knowing him for about 2 years, and his slideshow presentations have got better and better. But that's Lynn Morris, and that's Larry Ballard, and they're at Acts Ministry. Lynn Morris is the one that introduced me to him. Lynn Morris is Christian County Commissioner for Christian County, Ozark, Missouri. But I wanted you to just have a little bit of a background on who he was. Quite an interesting guy. He's his message is starting to get out, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Is this one specific show, but I wanted to show you all of the. He's got a lot of videos online, so you'll go there and you'll find them. And he, like I say, he's a very interesting person. Just double checking some levels and making sure everything's right. Sometimes I get confused. I want to make sure I'm live. Okay. I know I'm live when I do that and I see that. All right. We're just going to jump right on into uh, his video. And I think I got it keyed up right here. I'm practicing doing it a new way. So I might have to minimize my face or something to get where we get a full screen view. And I want to make sure the sound is right. So, all right. I believe we're there. If I hit this and go full screen, we'll be there.
Hello, folks. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm having a hard time keeping up with the goings on.
And I can't see nothing.
1 minute,
There he
we
is.
hear that the Panama Canal Hutchison deal is done. The next minute, we hear that it's not. The next minute, I hear that Musk is making a play for the Panama Canal. The next minute, I hear that that's not true. So at any rate, we're kind of in shifting sands right now. But anyway, let's get on with this show. Let's go to the first slide, Solutions for a Better Tomorrow. So this is going to take you into an understanding of what Trump's administration is trying to do and some of the backlash that he's getting. So let's go to the next slide and we'll dive deep into it. So those of you who follow me know that I don't do anything unless I first take it to the Lord. So this is where I think we're at right here. This is a pinnacle moment in time. And I think God's hand is right on it. So we've got Gandhi. And why did I put him up there? Because he delivered his nation and got them freedom without firing a single shot by simply saying to the British, we're not going to participate in your economic system. And that's kind of what Trump is doing right now. And then we've got Martin Luther King, who managed to get freedom for the blacks. And then we've got the two Kennedys who were assassinated, and Lincoln, who was assassinated. It was later found that the British were behind that, and 8 British spies were assassinated, and then, well, not assassinated, hung, and then they attempted to assassinate Trump. So what do all these men have? They all came against the global financial elite, and all but one of them was either assassinated or an attempted assassination was made. But I think right now, this is an appointed time, and I think Christ's hand is in this. God's hand is in this, and America is going to get its freedom back. Donald Trump is, I believe, anointed by God. I believe that Butler, he was saved because God chose him to deliver America, and not only America, but the world, and get the harvest of souls that he's always planned. So let's go on to the next slide, and we'll start to break it down. This next slide doesn't have much on it, but it's very important. When I died in 68, the message that God gave me was he'd hold me till the end, and he would give me knowledge that I could release that would open people's eyes, and the truth would set the captives free. So what's happening right now with Doge and all the disclosures of the waste and fraud that, by the way, are being objected to by the global financial elite and by the Democrats in Washington. I've seen numbers that say that he's found as low as 8 billion. Then there are reports that he's found 65 billion. And then if you go to Fox, it's 115 billion. Well, what he's claiming, which is what I'm more interested in, is that he believes that before this is over, he'll have saved America approximately $1 trillion. That's half of what we run on our current national debt. And what this is all about, at $36 trillion, 120 some percent of the US GDP, America is in serious financial difficulty. If we don't get rid of the waste and fraud and abuse, then America is literally going to suffer a catastrophic financial collapse. So this has to be done. So in terms of this slide, the thing I want to say to you is, this relates to my call for you to buy my book, because now is the time that we have to do what the people of India did, what Gandhi did. As all this truth is laid out, as whistleblowers come to the foreground, then it's going to be the responsibility of the American people to inform themselves as to what's been done, and to basically stand up with one voice and say, no, we are not going to participate. So that book, Liberty Crusade, The Fight to Save the Free World, was written for this moment in time, so that those who would buy it and read it, it's a quick read, would be informed with the truth and an understanding of how America became great, how we lost our freedom, how we're getting it back now, and how we keep it, if we will keep it. So it's vitally important information. So later on in the show, you're going to see a QR code, and you'll have an opportunity to buy that book if you want to be informed, so that you can be a part of the army of God that fights to save this nation. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to get a high-level overview of what Trump's basic plan is. Here it is. God always showed me that because of the knowledge that I give you, you'll be able to connect dots and see things that other people can't see, and you'll be able to tell them in very simple terms what the big picture is. Here it is right now. Here it is. Trump's common sense policies. National sovereignty requires 3 simple things: a sovereign currency, sovereign borders, and national security. So let's break it down. That picture you see up on the left is a whole bunch of currencies. Right now, there really are no sovereign currencies, because all the currencies in the world are controlled and manipulated by the global financial elite through the central banking system, and they're all fiat currencies. We're going to sovereign currency. Sovereign currency is a currency that is not fiat, that is based on something of value, i.e. commodity.
Now I got to jump in here and add something to this. He is so right about our currencies are corrupt. The actual banking system has been hijacked, and the ones that have hijacked it are the ones that want you not to do your due diligence to research these things. This is the time that we're awakening. And Larry and I have had really good conversations in person and over the phone, but he believes a little different than I do about how we got on this track of being slaves. And that's what we are. I don't care if you're a billionaire, you're a slave. Because if you don't have the full package of awareness of what's happening outside of you, how are you going to have the awareness of what's going on with inside of you? And the thing that is most important is your physical health. So the system, not only does it control the money, but with the money, it controls the medical model. And the medical model is not your friend. A doctor, in my case, and this is for entertainment purposes only and satire, because I'm fixing to compare a doctor to a mechanic. You want your oil checked and you want, make sure your spark plugs are good, but you got to get away from them. And the money is what is been in control of the whole world. The ones that are the central bank, and they call it the Federal Reserve. It's no more federal than nothing. Federal Express. It's independently owned. The Federal Reserve is independently owned. Now, Larry's going to get into some of this and talk about how this has happened, why it's happened. And he's right. All these presidents, counting Trump and going back to Kennedy and Kennedy 63, 60, yeah, he started talking against the money system, the money exchangers, in the form of currency. So he actually printed $5 silver certificates, $5 bills, and put them in circulation. And it was less than 6 months later, he was dead. That's the kind of fight that we're up against. Now I'm going to shut up and let Larry continue talking and get my screen, get my face out the screen so y'all can see and hear what we're talking about.
That cannot be controlled and manipulated, therefore giving the government that prints it. In this instance, we're getting the printing of our money back and putting it in the hands of the Treasury. Then that government has control over the decisions that are made with the money that it spends and how it runs this government. But under the current fiat system, we do not have a sovereign nation. We do not have sovereign currency. And then the picture down below, basically, neither do we nor Europe had sovereign borders, and any nation that does not have a sovereign border has no nation to be sovereign over. And then national security, well, that's been in our faces for the last several weeks. Basically, we're finding out that the core of everything, which will be discussed in another slide, is basically we have to move from globalization to deglobalization. And as that happens, the power shifts completely around the world. And what Trump is doing to position for that is he is basically looking at what threatens our national security. Well, as trade routes change, he has to look at the Panama Canal because that's a lifeline to Europe and to Asia. And he has to look at Greenland because Greenland might be an alternative route of very significance if something happens with the Panama Canal. So Trump is looking at that, and that's why we're hearing that he's making a play for the Panama Canal. A deal was supposedly signed with Hutchison to own the two ports, and there's much more involved. I'm not going to get it in at this show. I'm going to let the dust settle. And next week, when I think that everything is out there and clear, then we're going to discuss the Panama Canal in more detail. But anyway, that's what makes us great. We have to have a sovereign currency, sovereign borders, national security. And Trump is saying that he understands all those things and that his vision is one of creating peace, security, and prosperity. You can't have peace, security, and prosperity when you have all of the money of the world controlled by a force that is basically wanting to cause wars because wars are control mechanisms. Let's go to the next slide. And I didn't even make an attempt to update this because things are changing so fast. But we've got roughly 120% of our GDP as debt, 36 trillion. And this is where I said those numbers for Doge are all over the place. 8 billion, 65 billion, 115 billion. But what I'm listening to is what Doge says. He thinks he's going to save us about half of what our annual national debt deficit is, which is $1 trillion of the $2 trillion. And if we don't do that, then America is headed fairly quickly into a bankruptcy. Let's go on, and we're going to dig down deeper, and we're going to understand, go to the next slide, why things are so expensive. I mean, basically, we're printing money, and that's causing it. But this picture shows you the real long picture. The dollar has been degrading, becoming less and less valuable. Now, depending on who you talk to, it's worth only 3 to 4 cents. And it's not that the value of a house has gone up, it's that the value of the dollar has gone down. And so houses that were a couple of $100,000 before COVID are now 400 or more. So it's crazy. It's this, you're seeing the decline of the dollar, and that is what is causing the inflation. So basically we have to get control, and what Trump is orchestrating is something that is really, really slick. I think it's almost genius. He's orchestrating a way to allow the US dollar to fall, but only so far, and then he's going to salvage it and turn it around and bring it back very quickly. We'll get into that as we go on down through this slide. Let's go to the next slide. And I am so glad that he started with the Department of Education. My children are grown, but I have grandchildren, and they're just getting ready to start to go to school. And I'd hate to see them go in and be given the propaganda that our children are currently giving of the Federal Department of Education. So he's gotten out of that, and he looked at that budget through Doge and found out that we spend more money than any other nation in the world, and yet we rank 40th in education. And that's because a lot of that money doesn't go to the teachers. It doesn't go to give quality education. It goes for what I call propaganda. So then let's go down to USA. This was the first thing that they rooted through and found, and they found that we are spending money for DEI projects and all kinds of insane things. And that's what I call the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. And I'm calling the people to say, don't listen to what they're saying on the other side. They're going to refute everything that he's doing. He basically made promises the first term, and he kept them. And he's keeping his promises this time, but it's going to make everything shake. It's going to look scary. You're not going to take down the global financial elite, the most powerful entity in the world, and have it be just another, walk in the park. Everything that can be shaken is going to be shaken. But what I want to show you is this man has a plan, and it's not risky. It's based upon what made America great in the first place, and it will work if the American people stand united with him, like the people of India stood united with Mahatma Gandhi. Let's go to the next slide. And I just loved it when I came across this. I looked at that cow, and it says, this says it, no sacred cows. In other words, Dode's going to come in, and he's going to siphon off all of the fraud and the abuse and bring us down to where we have a lean government, which is what we were supposed to have in the first place. And let's analyze it a little more. The whole structure of what was supposed to be the balance of power has changed. When this nation was set up, basically the federal government only had a few powers. They were supposed to collect the money from taxes, and they were supposed to provide security to us domestic and otherwise. And that was pretty much their power. But look, they've got in, and we've got a bloated federal government. We have to go back to basically what we were intended to be in the first place, a government of the people, by the people, for the people, which is a republic. And the power of a republic resides at the state and local level, not at the federal level. So that's what's got to change. Elon Musk is fighting to save America, literally save it. Because if we have bankruptcy, the whole world's in trouble because there's not another nation in the world that is going to be capable of making the transition from globalization to deglobalization, from fiat currency to commodity-backed currency, and restore the economies of the world other than America. God does not want to have a communist nation ruling the world. We're in that point in the Bible. We're at the Red Sea. We're at the point of Esther and the Exodus. We're at the point where God is coming to deliver the harvest of souls. And basically, to do that, God has to put America at the helm, and he's doing that. If you follow what's happening, the money will be uncovered and is being uncovered. And as the corruption is uncovered, what they say, follow the money trail, because that's sort of the facts that prove what was happening. We're going to see an army of whistleblowers come out and show us everything. And then we're going to see that followed by arrests, which I think people have been waiting for a long time. And that picture over to the right, that's all red tape. And that red tape is getting cut. What did he do when he first came in? He cut regulations. And what's he doing now? He's cutting more and more and more regulations. And he's saying to the people of the world, to the countries of the world, look, I'm not trying to come at you and lay on retribution for the tariffs that have been posed against us and the intentionally losing trade. I'm simply saying that America needs a relatively level playing field in the international market. That's all I'm asking for. And so basically, we heard all this rhetoric, I guess I would call it, and yet when he held his ground, nations started to back down. He said, you don't have to have these tariffs imposed upon you. I'm giving you some options. You can impose no tariffs against America. And if you impose no tariffs against us, we'll impose no tariffs against you. It's a level playing field. And from what I understand, everything's changing very rapidly. Canada capitulated and said, we won't charge you tariffs. And so did Vietnam, and so did Israel. So basically, Trump came into this knowing that he had the leverage he needed, because he knew, we covered this in our last show, that the GDP of America is larger than any other nation, and there's not a nation out there that wants to risk losing the ability to trade with the United States. So we're winning this. Just hang in there. Yes, some people are losing their jobs. Yes, some things are going to get a little more expensive, but look, you've got options, just like those nations have options. So the Canada and the others said, okay, we're not going to charge you tariffs, so level playing field. And then let's take the auto industry, which Trump says he's going to make us number one. Well, that threatens Japan. So what did they do? So basically Trump said, look, if you make your products here in America, you don't have to pay any tariffs at all. So what happened? The head of Japan came over here and said, we're going to build factories in America, and he dedicated $1 trillion to do that. And so that means we're going to lose some jobs now, but how many jobs do you think that's going to give us? And then several other nations are doing the same things. They're deciding that they're going to bring their manufacturing to America. And what made America great in the first place was we were the manufacturing power of the world, and we're going to get that back. And so what is he doing to facilitate that? He's saying any nation, any company that brings $1 billion or more into the U.S. to build a factory, we will fast track your whole project so that you can get the necessary permits you need to build that factory immediately and get online. Under the Biden administration and the several that preceded him, it took years to get approval to build anything. So Donald Trump is streamlining government, bringing foreign investment to America that used to go to China, and he's rebuilding America from the ground up. Just give him a little time. This is not something that you can snap your fingers and it's done the next day. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to see the idiocy, the utter stupidity of what the Democrats are doing. Instead of realizing and looking introspectively at what they've done, they can't do that. They have to defend themselves, because they know if this gets too far out of control and we really understand what they've done to us, they're done. So the Democratic Party does not represent we, the people. Let's move on. The Democrats are pawns of the elite. And do I have any proof of that? Well, I have what's happening every single solitary day since Trump's come on board. Basically, look over to the other side. The Dems are doing what? They're defending waste, fraud, and abuse. How is that a winning formula? How is that anything except obstruction? Where is there anything in that that helps us streamline our spending, that helps us get our economic system under control, avoid a financial collapse, and put America in a position where it's respected again? Donald Trump said he would make America great. He would make America greater than ever. He would make America respected. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's basically putting pressure on the Ukraine situation, trying to end that war. He's basically trying to end wars. His whole objective is to not have retribution against nations, but to allow a situation as his administration goes forward, where all of the governments of the world have an opportunity to have relative financial parity. And when that happens, that creates what his overall objective is to have peace and prosperity on the earth. Donald Trump is the only president in modern times that hasn't taken us into a war. Now you say, well, but look what's happening here over in the Middle East. Yes, but what Trump is doing is trying to end larger conflicts. And sometimes that takes drawing a line in the sand and doing what you say you're going to do, and hoping, which often happens, that once you draw that line and the adversary knows that you will implement it, then that actually prevents a war. So time will tell. Let's go on to the next slide. And this is a depiction of one Elon Musk. Look at his eyes with the X there. And this is what Doge is all about. And it's not just bloated government. It is money laundering and treason. So I say to the American people, let's demand that we allow him to do his job, and we find out that he's coming back, and they say, well, there's not any receipts. He's coming back and telling us that $1 billion was allocated here, and we don't even know what for. We don't have anybody to contact. The U.S. government cannot pass an audit because there's no audit trail. So basically that smells to high heaven of what? Of fraud and abuse. So say no to bloated government, say no to money laundering, and say no to treason. And I think that what's going to happen here is what he's doing is going to give us the information that we need to follow the money trail, to sniff out who has been behind the suppression of the American people and the American economy. And with that, then massive numbers of whistleblowers are going to come out, and we're going to see arrest, and we're going to get back control of not only our financial system, but back control of our government. Let's go to the next slide. And here's how it all comes down. Basically, the United States is a country that is looking to establish peace and prosperity for the world. And how's that happening? First, you follow the money trail. The money takes you into what? To the swamp. And what did Trump say? He would drain the swamp. And this is how he's doing it, because anything short of showing you the money laundering is not going to make the American people believe what's happening, because the other side will just repudiate it and call it conspiracy theory. So now that we're getting the money trail clarified, what has to happen next is Trump needs to provide massive protection for the whistleblowers so that they won't have retributions of any kind coming against them. And I sat down and thought about this the other day, and I said, you know, Hollywood always gives us a nice little hint of what's going on. And I thought back to a Tom Cruise movie called The Firm, and it just really exemplified what I think is about to happen. He's really a brilliant guy at one of the Ivy League schools. He's recruited, and he's a lawyer. He goes to work, and he's given a huge salary and all these perks and benefits, and then he finds out he's working for the devil. I think that what they do is they go into the Ivy League schools, they pick the best and brightest, they offer them these huge salaries, and then they get in and they find they're working for the devil. And I think that many of them want out, but they can't get out unless they get protections. They need immunity from prosecution, and they need to make sure that no punitive action is taken against them. And in some instances, that might even include being killed. So basically, we have an opportunity to get down to the root of the issue. And what I want to say here is, whenever I talk to people, I try to talk about solutions where most other people try to talk about Well, this was on the headlines today, and this was on the headlines yesterday, and that's it. And then the news cycle goes on. But basically, what we have to look at now is we have to look at solutions, and the solutions are always approachable from only one place. Everybody seems to want to start where the problem has festered and risen to the surface. At that point, it's huge and it cannot be solved. The Bible tells us you have to go to the root. So what Donald Trump is doing is going back to where our current financial crisis started, at the root, and he is going to pluck it out at the root by getting control of natural resources, manufacturing and trade, control of the money supply, which gives him control of all the spheres of influence. And next week, we're going to do a show where we take that concept and we tie it into everything that Donald Trump is doing to save America. And at that point, I think you're going to find it's an intriguing show that will finally get the people of America's eyes open. And I hope that they will stand behind Donald Trump and understand there will be some pain, but the alternative is an absolute collapse. America is on a tipping point. China's on a tipping point. Russia's on a tipping point. Iran's on a tipping point. The whole world is at a point where the power structure of the world is going to change, and we better pay attention to it, and we better make the right decisions. See you on the flip side. Welcome back, folks. Can you go to the next slide, please, and we'll get back into this? Next slide. Okay, America is bleeding out financially. So let me make a comment here. It was decided decades ago that America was too powerful. It had run World War I and World War II, and it was just simply not going to be possible to take America on frontally and destroy it. So they've been trying to take America down just like you need an elephant, one bite at a time, a little at a time, a little at a time. And where we really saw it happen and then take momentum was under Carter, when they decided to open up trade with China, infuse massive amounts of money into China, put America in intentionally losing trade deals, specifically the NAFTA deal. And that led to the situation that Trump is trying to reverse right now, where we had totally losing trade deals. When we first entered into NAFTA and started selling products to China, America was about 200 years old, and we had a $600 billion national debt, not even $1 trillion. And now it's 36 trillion. And it stems largely from the losing trade agreements that we've had with all the nations of the world, even those nations that we call our friends. Canada, for example, we run a huge trade deficit with them, and Mexico to the south, and we're part of the G20, and we run basically trade deficits with almost all of those nations. All Trump is trying to do is to stop the bleeding of America that's driving us into an unmanageable collapse that's going to see the financial system collapse if we don't do something. So I want to put something before you and ask you to participate in saving America. Basically, what's going to happen is what happened when we became the greatest nation in the world and we imposed tariffs on Britain, and it became too expensive to buy British goods. Well, that cost pain for a while, but then what happened? It caused the American people to innovate and to build basically the Industrial Revolution, and America on its 200th centennial anniversary announced, because of that, because of those tariffs, we're now the wealthiest nation in the world. So I say to everybody out there listening, they're telling you that you have to abandon this pursuit for fair trade because it's going to cause your prices to go up. In the short run, it will. But you have a choice. Let's say you want to buy a new car next year. All right, you can buy a car made in Japan or in Korea or in South Korea rather, but why not choose to buy American made? That's what America was all about when I was a child. American built, American made, patriotically, patriotism, support America. So folks, the more you support America, the quicker and smoother this transition to financial security will be. And we'll be able to cut taxes, we'll be able to pay down the national debt, and America will be able to be prosperous again. And once we've paid down that debt, then the money that's coming in from those tariffs or from capitulation, where we have fair trade with people, where they say, we won't tariff you if you don't tariff us, then America will be in a situation where instead of bleeding out financially, it becomes just exactly what Donald Trump said. He will make America great. He will make it greater than ever. He will make it respected. And we have a role to play. That's why I'm encouraging you to buy my book, Knowledge is Power. We have to stand behind Donald Trump and just buy America. If you buy American, you'll pay a little bit more, but you'll end up saving the nation. Let's go to the next slide. Here's where we really have to put our focus. Of all the whole world, the only nation really in a position to give us any threat at all is China. And China's trying to make alliances, but I think the world is seeing that at this point in time, America still has enough leverage that no matter what alliances are made, America has the power in order to do what Donald Trump is doing. So I'm not going to go deep into this right now because I'm going to do entire shows on the struggle between China and America and what we have to do to win. The battle of the Titans is upon us, and whoever blinks first is going to lose. But I think Donald Trump is a man who knows how to play poker and knows how to play chess. And I think that here's what I see. I see Russia, because of the war, is in very serious financial difficulty. I think Iran is in financial difficulty. Japan is near default. Britain is near default. America is in financial difficulty. It's because, why? Because starting with the COVID crisis in 2020, the intent was to collapse the entire global financial system and create a reset that took us to what? Global slavery, to the one world government, getting the government that they want. So now every nation in the world is in a race to the bottom. Who's going to collapse first? If we don't back Donald Trump and what he's doing and get back control of our economic system and stop the bleed, America will go down. But if we follow Trump's plans, it's going to be China who goes down. And basically, America is going to step into the position that God intends. God does not intend at this point in time for any communist nation, be it Russia, be it China, be it Iran, no nation that's not following God is going to be allowed to be the economic superpower of the world, because this is that point in time where God wants to usher in his harvest of souls. And that can only be done if a God-fearing nation is controlling the world. So stand firm, folks. Back Donald Trump's play. Buy America, and just hold on. It's going to be a little scary. Things are going to get a little rough, but it's going to get a whole lot rougher if we don't stand strong, united with this man, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's go to the next slide. And I want to make a comment on some of my other shows, because I had a conversation with somebody who's pretty high up in the chain, and he cautioned me to change my vernacular. I've been saying free trade. I mean, free energy. And in a sense, that's not an incorrect statement, but it will never have totally free energy, because you still have to bring whatever energy it is to scale. That costs money. You have to produce plants. There are costs that are associated. But what we are going to walk into with what's happening with Chevron and with the race that we're having with China, it is absolutely going to be, no question, whatever technology we have that has been suppressed is going to be released, because we're now in a war with the Titan, with China, to basically have supremacy over the world through what? Through technology, through AI, through robotics, through supercomputers, and through a crypto-based system on blockchain. All of those technologies will double, maybe even triple the energy needs of the world, and we cannot service those needs with fossil fuel. So after 150 years of being denied amazing technology, we're going to get it. So we're in a race with China to see who can stay the course and who can get that technology out and bring it to scale. And so here's where this whole thing comes together. If we stand united, the money is leaving China. The manufacturing is leaving China. It's coming to America. It's going to fund America. We will be able to have the resources. And in Elon Musk, we have an unbelievable technology innovator. I believe we will win this technology race in the short run. And I believe America will get its day back in the sun where we are the greatest nation in the world, greater than we ever were. But ironically, I'll do this in other presentations as the weeks unfold. It's the very technology that will save us now will one day be the technology that leads to the beast system. So we need to understand what's happening today, what's going to happen to bring us back to where we are the greatest nation in the world, and that we have to know to keep from losing that position in the future, because these things don't just happen overnight. They happen over decades. And so the sooner you find out the long-term strategy, the more we'll be prepared to get the power and keep it as long as we can. Let's go on to the next slide, and you're going to see what I call nothing but an ingenious plan. The next slide, please. All right, this is what Donald Trump is doing. He knows that we're going to have a financial collapse. He knows that it's intended that every major nation in the world has a financial collapse. He knows we're going from globalization to deglobalization, from dollarization to de-dollarization. So how is he orchestrating this whole thing to minimize the impact on the United States and have us come out of this where he's kept his promise of America will be great again, greater than ever? The first thing is he's allowing the dollar to lose some value. And that's done all the time by other nations. Basically, what China does repeatedly is hold down the value of its currency. What does that do? That makes your products more competitive in the global trade market. So that's what he's doing. That's step one. And then devalue the dollar. So basically, we get to the point that he's got to make a transition to make the U.S. goods more price competitive. So what's he going to do? Now we're getting into the real nitty-gritty of his process. He's announced that he is going to transition from our current fiat worthless currency over into a currency based on a Bitcoin strategic reserve, listen for it, backed by a stable coin, backed by gold, which is God's economic system. So he's going to let the fiat system fall, but immediately has a plan to transition into a system that has value, that cannot be manipulated and cannot be controlled. And that transition from fiat dollar to the commodity-backed economy is what's going to provide a cushion for America to land on, so that what will happen is we will no longer be the sole reserve currency of the world. The world doesn't want that. They don't want to be controlled by trade by China or by the US dollar, but we will remain the dominant world's reserve currency, meaning America will still hold its position as the dominant economic entity in the world. That's Donald Trump's plan. It's genius. It allows for a controlled collapse and an immediate economic recovery to where we are and far beyond. Stay the course with Donald Trump, please. Let's go to the next slide. And Trump's common sense policies, a new economic system and tax structure, end the fiat dollar and go to a commodity-backed system based by what? Liquid gold, by corn, by wheat, by commodities that can't be controlled and manipulated. And he's telling us every day what he's doing. He's saying we are going to go away from a central banking system to a decentralized banking system. He's going to get rid of 88,000 internal revenue agents and transition from the fiat dollar to a commodity-backed system, which tells me that at the appropriate time, you'll see bricks up there, we have the gold. And we're going to have the stable coin, and he's announced we're going to be the dominant cryptocurrency provider in the entire world. He's providing us with the transition. So at the exact right moment, he's going to put America on a commodity-backed system, and we're going to hit that cushion, and we're going to come out of this and rebound immediately, and we're going to become, once again, the world's economic superpower, and we'll have put China in a position of great disadvantage. Let's go to the next slide and see if this man really keeps his promises. So here's what he's had Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bassett, say to us that basically tells us exactly what he's going to do. All this U.S. government opposition to crypto is over. And so that means what? Well, here he tells us exactly. We are going to keep the U.S. as the dominant, not the sole, but the dominant reserve currency in the world, and we will use stable coins to do that. I'm going to add backed by gold. And then he goes on to say, Treasury will rescind and amend all previous guidelines that hurt digital asset markets. So what happened immediately? We find out that the XRP lawsuit is basically being aborted. I believe they have to go back to court technically to dismiss the case, but that's supposed to happen sometime this month. So let's read on. I'll read it from the top. Treasury will rescind and amend all previous guidance that hurts digital asset markets. The stablecoin framework will ensure financial institutions, here it comes, can offer dollar-backed digital assets in a regulated, secure form. So basically, we're going to get regulatory clarity, and we're going to be able to make that transition from a fiat currency over to a currency that is going to be based on crypto. And he said, America will be the crypto capital of the world. And one of the things that he's trying to implement to make that happen is the stable coins and being backed by gold. And also, if you buy crypto from a U.S. firm, he's trying to make it so that you don't have to pay capital gains when you sell it. I mean, that would be huge. Let's go on. There's your strategy. And I want to go to the next slide. It's not something he just reached out and grabbed out of the air. He did it based upon how we became the greatest nation in the world in the first place. That is an actual brochure from the 1876 centennial that we held here in America that brought 10 million people from around the world, where America had imposed exactly the policies that Trump is imposing now. For 34 years following the Civil War, he had bankruptcy. And what we did is we imposed tariffs on Britain so that it was too expensive to buy American goods. It's exactly what's going to happen right here in terms of China. And what that did is it made America innovate. It made us become the innovators of the Industrial Revolution, of the Transcontinental Railroad, of the assembly line, of the automobile, of the telephone, etc. And unlike other nations who hoard those kinds of things, we shared it with the world. And so the tariffs that we put on are ultimately what made America the youngest nation in the world in 1876, announced that they were now the wealthiest nation in the world. So Donald Trump is not out experimenting. He's just following a tried and true plan that made us who we are in the first place. He's just going back to our foundation. And eventually, once he gets the debt paid down, we will get out from under the Federal Reserve, and we will go back to the economic system that we had based on tariffs that is decentralized. So we won't have a federal government centralization. We'll have decentralization, and basically we will go back to a simple sales tax. So our whole economy will be run from tariffs and from a simple sales tax. And people, just think of what that means to most of you out there. Automatically, 35% of what you make is being taken away from you in federal income tax. If that goes away, and then when we get very cheap energy, the cost of everything you buy will go away. And then when the dollar is stabilized and is no longer at 4 cents, but is back at $1, you're going to find that your standard of living has changed absolutely unbelievably. So you cannot defend this man, and we can have financial bankruptcy, and we can have a financial collapse that makes the 1929 depression look like nothing, or you can stand with him and help him do what made us great in the first place, and we will go back to a period of time where you're going to have one person in the family working, male or female. You can have a household of 4 or 5 or 6 kids, and that family can be fed on one income. And you can have 2 cars in the driveway and have a nice house. We haven't had that for decades, folks, but that's what Donald Trump is going to bring back. Let's go to the next slide. And this is where I encourage you. Please buy my book. If you go to the next slide, please, because this book will give you everything you need to know so that we can stand up and do what India did. Stand united, one nation under God, and defend what Donald Trump is doing to make this nation great again. This book is a quick, simple read. It tells you what made America great, how we lost it, how we're getting it back, and once we get it back, how we keep it. It's what you need in order to be what? A patriot, but also a member of a republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people, which requires that you be educated, that you be informed, that you vote your conscience, that we have an honest voting system, and that you do not vote for those who will give you handouts, but you vote for whatever is in the best interest of the nation. You need to learn what our nation was founded on. If we go back to those roots, nobody is going to come out ahead of the United States of America. Let's go to the next slide, and I'm not going to ask you at this point to donate for my book. I'm going to tell you what happened. We have now reached 2/3 of the money that we need. I've made the deposit to the publisher, so this book is in the queue, and I'm gonna give it some time, and then we'll come back in a month or so, and we'll start asking for money again. But this book has to get out. It has to be professionally edited because we have to get it into the schools so that as Donald Trump is getting rid of the federal education department, we can get books like this into the school system so that instead of turning out good little communists, good little left-leaning people, we can turn out American patriots. So when the time comes, I'm going to ask you again, help me cross the finish line and get this book out by making a donation. If you want to do something today, there's the QR code. But what I'd really rather you see right now is buy the book so you can get informed so that you can help us get across the finish line. Let's go to the next slide, please. And basically, Trump's common sense policies, made in America, manufacture your products in America and enjoy low taxes. And then let's make your products outside of the United States and pay high taxes. Reinstate the American economic system, take tariffs off us, we'll take tariffs off you, and everybody's happy. It's that simple, folks. The American economic system was what made us great, and it was based on Buy America. It was based on American controlling manufacturing and trade and treating other nations fairly, and that is exactly what Donald Trump is doing. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll see that this is what has placed us into slavery and what has to be taken down. In 1871, we lost our republic and we became a corporation and were controlled by the central banking system by a conglomerate of international corporations and by politicians that sold us out. All of that is going to go away with this financial collapse when we find out what's really, truly been done to us and the waste, the fraud, and the abuse and the treason that's been committed against the American people by the very people who are supposed to be safeguarding us, then basically everything is going to change and we're going to go back to our founding principles. But this is what's coming, and it's going to be traumatic. Let's go to the next slide, and you'll see that in one place, you can go to the next slide, please. The next slide, please. That before Trump left, he had this second Declaration of Independence written out. It still has to be brought before Congress. You can go to this link, and it's only 8 pages long, and it will tell you that he has a total plan for restoring America back to its status as a republic. We will not be going against Britain, saying we are declaring our independence from Britain, but we will be declaring our independence from a corporation. And this will tell you everything you need to know about what his immediate current strategies are. It's only 8 pages long, folks. Take the time, click on the link, and find out how America is going to be saved if we back Donald Trump. Let's go to the next slide. And we have lost control of the balance of power in this nation. We are supposed to have the legislative, the judicial, and the executive branches, each having their own spheres of influence. But what we have now with the crazy decisions that are being made, a judicial gone amok, we've got despotic judges controlling the executive and legislative branches of the government. And we have this decision that was made by this judge that you see here that says, even if someone comes into this country illegally, committing a crime, and has committed crimes such as rape or murder, you still can't take them out of this nation without due process. That's not what our Constitution says. Those are traitors. These gang members have been designated as traitorous organizations. And how dare this judge go against Donald Trump and say we have to keep criminals in this nation who are killing and raping and pillaging this nation. This man has to be stopped. These judges have to lose their power. And I'm glad to say that I don't know where it's going to go, but it looks like there's a movement to get this man disbarred. So we have to be cognizant of the fact that we have to get control back of the federal judges, and we have to get control back of the Supreme Court. The way they get control of people is through blackmail and through bribery, and we have to get back control of the courts, because right now they are controlling the legislative and judicial branch of the government, meaning we've lost our balance of power. Let's go to the next slide, if you would. How it is possible that judges block deportation. I've just covered this before, but 26 states are joining the fight to deport Trinidad and Tobago. So basically the people are behind getting these people out of here because they realize, and we've seen it, it's been very painful, if you do not have a border, you do not have a government. You do not have a sovereign nation. And so the idea that one judge can stop us having a sovereign border is absolutely insane to me. Let's go to the next slide. And you're going to see that we're also making a movement to get our religious freedom back. The greatness of America rests in what? In its Christian values, its family values, its patriotism. And basically Trump knows this. In Trump's America, we are going to have religious freedom again. And he sent Caroline Lovett in a courtroom knowing that a group of people were being brought before a judge because they had the audacity to pray in a public park. And so she came in knowing that he was against religion, wearing her cross, and he tried to fine her $500. Now he's being derobed, and in his courtroom and other courtrooms around the nation, he now says justice is honored. Justice honors all faiths. So let's go on because we're almost running out of time. And I want to take you to George Bush and to what has happened within our system. So judges use laws written by corrupt politicians to rule on cases to set precedents, and that precedents is then used in subsequent cases to basically create laws that are designed not to protect us, but to create a legal dictatorship. And so that takes us to Bush, takes us to 9/11, takes us to the Patriot Act. And Trump says, stop throwing the Constitution in my face. It's just a blank piece of paper. So him and Kissinger said, the illegal we do immediately. The unconstitutional takes us a little longer. Let's go to the next slide. We've only got a few seconds left. And basically, if we'll stay the course, Donald Trump is on target and we will win. And this is what's going to happen. If you go to the next slide, inflation, deflation, wage suppression, stock market manipulation, boom bust cycles, national and consumer debt, poverty and division, and global conflicts are going to end, and we're going to move into a period of peace and prosperity.
Wow, that was good. Larry's got a way of talking and explaining things with those slides. I really like the way he does that. It's interesting. So let me see if I can pull up what I'm looking for. Yeah, that's the cover image on the YouTube. That oh, gotta have my sound up. All right, I'm glad that you stuck with me this far. I was just saying, Larry is he's the man. when it comes to having slideshow. He's got people now helping him with his slides. I've noticed some of them are AI generated. And in our conversation that I had with Larry Ballard today, I told him about Grok and how I was being able to really have good conversations with Grok. And he wanted to know, was it biased? And I said, of course, of course it is. It's biased. It's built in all AIs. But I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell him and my audience. I want y'all all to know this. It's nothing fancy. Just a little country boy that has dyslexia can actually talk in such a way that I can ask it questions that normally it would not answer. Now you figure out that jailbreak deal, and you tell me how I do it. I don't know. I'm just telling you, it's my type of common sense. It's my so-called vernacular with words, or the lack of, that gets me the ability to get behind Grok on these deep, deep subjects. I could demonstrate and show you, but it may see once I asked a question that is provocative and that may be, crossing the boundaries of what's normal, other than a normal question, it's all got biased. Every AI system that is being utilized is still controlled opposition from the people that program it. Elon is a wonderful person, but I don't trust him no further than I can throw him. Trump is a wonderful person, but I don't trust him no further than I can throw him. If we are going to be free to have our freedoms, we have to have freedom of speech. This video right here is for entertainment purposes with satire. And my form of satire is from Mississippi. I laugh at any and everything that doesn't have common sense. It's it's comical how this money system has been losing its value for years. Give you an example. Greenville, Mississippi. I want to make a video about this and get some historical uh, video footage of some of these buildings and empty warehouses that have these jobs that were so great in the 40s, 50s, and 60s in Greenville, Mississippi, of all places, in the leading up into the 70s. I don't know what happened, but I believe it was NAFTA and TAFTA. Those are some of the kind of questions that you ask Grok, and Grok will give you some really good answers. Let me do that real quick. I'm not on the right format. Let me do this. Go here and go X. Where's the X? X. There I am. Click that. Now we're just going. We not. I'm not going to go long on this. I'm just going to show you a couple of techniques. I'm on Edge, Microsoft browser, and when I want to talk to Grok, once I'm there, I can right click the mouse and it says Windows H key right up here with the microphone. I'm going to ask a question about the NAFTA and TAFTA. When did it come in effect? And when did businesses start leaving the country? But you'll hear me ask it. Hello, Grok. This is Buddy Huggins. I've got an interesting question I want to ask you. I am dyslexic and I have dysgraphia and dyscalculus. I was born developmentally delayed, but I call it gifts, and I have quite a few gifts of common sense. The question is this: I lived in Greenville, Mississippi, and we had all kinds of factories and businesses that made products like Levi Strauss, Fruit of Balloon, and the list goes on and on. Classic pickles, and we had Uncle Ben's rice. We had two car stamping. They made parts for like GMC and Ford, two different plants, and all of it went away based around NAFTA and TAFTA. Can you tell me the year that those laws came into existence, and then look and see what you can find about all of the industry I spoke of in Greenville, Mississippi, leaving at the same time or within 10 years? Is nothing there now. No really good high paying jobs at all. Thank you for helping me. I really appreciate it. And by the way, I'm live with my audience, just so you'll know. Thank you for helping me. I'm letting them know that you're so good that you can find out all kinds of good information. All right, take a second and think about it, and then it'll start pulling up stuff. But yeah, I told it that I'm dyslexic, and that kind of helps me do that little jailbreak thing. Yeah, I just get farther with it, deeper, and it's interesting. But I'm not going to go all into it now because we're not going to talk about controversial subjects that they censor on these systems. But I can get around them. I can tell you that much.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for the kind word, Sam, for sharing your story with our audience.
I
To
got to
existence?
start it over because it done that
Stein,
skip when
buddy.
it's
Thanks.
when it skips. See how it turns all that yellow? That's not what we want. So I'm gonna go right here and highlight Buddy, hi Buddy, and I'm gonna make it reread it. Continue reading from here. That usually works in case you're following my steps.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for the kind words and for sharing your story with your audience. I'm happy to
Correct.
help dig into your question about NAFTA, TAFTA, which I'll clarify, and the industries in Greenville, Mississippi. Let's break it down step by step with clear, concise answers based on available information, while addressing your unique perspective and the challenges you've mentioned. I'll also keep it engaging since you're live. 1. When did NAFTA and TAFTA come into existence? NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. Signed December 17, 1992, by the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Took effect January 1st, 1994. Purpose: eliminated most tariffs and trade barriers between the three countries to encourage cross-border commerce. It was replaced by the USMCA, United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, on July 1st, 2020. TAFTA, clarification. You likely meant TAFTA, Transatlantic Free Trade Area, or possibly confused it with another trade agreement. TAFTA was a proposed trade agreement between the US and the European Union, discussed in the 1990s, but it never came into existence as a formal agreement. A similar concept, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, TTIP, was negotiated starting in 2013 but was stalled by 2016 and never implemented. If you meant something else by TAFTA, it could be a typo or a reference to the Trade Adjustment Assistance, TAA, program, which was expanded under NAFTA to help workers displaced by trade agreements. The TAA program was authorized under the Trade Act of 1974 and amended in 2002, and later to support workers impacted by NAFTA. Let me know if this is what you meant, and I can dive deeper. For now, I'll focus on NAFTA.
By it being back in '74, it was one of the cornerstones for industry leaving our cities like Greenville, rural areas, where it had took years to get those type of factories there. They were gone within a decade.
NAFTA as the primary trade agreement, since it's directly tied to the industrial shifts you described. 2. Industries in Greenville, Mississippi, and their closure timeline. You mentioned specific industries in Greenville, Mississippi, including Levi Strauss, Fruit of the Loom, Vlasic Pickles, Uncle Ben's Rice, and 2 car part stamping plants, likely for GMC and Ford. Your question suggests these factories closed around the time of NAFTA's implementation, 1994, or within 10 years, by 2004. I'll investigate whether these specific businesses were in Greenville, if they closed, and how their closures align with NAFTA's impact. Since precise data on Greenville's factories is limited, I'll use available evidence and broader trends, acknowledging gaps where they exist. General context: NAFTA's impact on U.S. manufacturing. NAFTA's implementation in 1994 led to increased trade with Mexico, where lower labor costs incentivized some U.S. companies to relocate production. This hit industries like textiles, apparel, food processing, and auto parts hard, especially in regions like the Mississippi Delta. A 1999 Senate hearing noted that North Carolina alone lost 10,500 textile jobs in 1998 due to NAFTA, and companies like Levi Strauss and Fruit of the Loom moved operations to Mexico for cheaper labor. Similar patterns likely affected Mississippi, but let's look at Greenville specifically. Specific industries in Greenville, Mississippi. Levi Strauss. Presence in Greenville. Levi Strauss had manufacturing facilities across the U.S., particularly in the South, for denim and apparel production. While I don't have direct evidence of a Levi Strauss plant in Greenville, Mississippi, it's plausible given the region's textile history. Closure timeline. Levi Strauss began closing U.S. plants in the 1990s after NAFTA. By 1999, the company announced closures of multiple North American factories, shifting production to Mexico and Asia. For example, a 1999 Wall Street Journal report noted Levi Strauss moved operations south due to NAFTA's labor cost advantages. NAFTA connection. If a Levi Strauss plant existed in Greenville, it likely closed between 1994 and 2004, aligning with the company's broader strategy to offshore production post-NAFTA. The congressional record from 2008 lists Levi Strauss among companies impacted by NAFTA, with job losses in apparel assembly. Fruit of the Loom. Presence in Greenville. Fruit of the Loom, a major apparel manufacturer, had plants across the U.S. South, including Mississippi. While I can't confirm a specific Greenville plant, the company's presence in nearby areas, e.g., Bowling Green, Kentucky, suggests it's possible. Closure timeline. Fruit of the Loom faced significant challenges post-NAFTA. The 1999 Senate hearing reported that Fruit of the Loom, along with other textile firms, moved operations to Mexico, contributing to job losses in the U.S. South. By the early 2000s, many U.S. plants closed or downsized. NAFTA connection. If Fruit of the Loom operated in Greenville, closures likely occurred between 1994 and 2004, driven by NAFTA's tariff reductions, making Mexican production cheaper. The congressional record also lists Fruit of the Loom as a company affected by NAFTA. Vlasic Pickles. Presence in Greenville. Vlasic Pickles, owned by Vlasic Foods International, a spin-off of Campbell's Soup, had a processing plant in Greenville, Mississippi, known for producing pickles in the Mississippi Delta. This is confirmed by local histories and economic reports from the region. Closure timeline. The Vlasic plant in Greenville closed in 2001. Vlasic Foods International filed for bankruptcy in 2001, and the Greenville facility was shuttered as part of restructuring. While NAFTA wasn't the sole cause, the agreement's impact on food processing, e.g., competition from Mexican agriculture, contributed to cost pressures. A 2008 congressional record mentions NAFTA's broader effects on U.S. agriculture and manufacturing, which could include food processing. NAFTA connection. The closure in 2001 falls within your 10-year window, 1994 to 2004. NAFTA's reduction of tariffs on Mexican agricultural products likely intensified competition, indirectly affecting plants like Vlasic's in Greenville. Uncle Ben's Rice. Presence in Greenville. Uncle Ben's, a brand under Mars, Incorporated, had a rice processing facility in Greenville, Mississippi, leveraging the Delta's agricultural base. This is documented in Mississippi's industrial history. Closure timeline. The Uncle Ben's plant in Greenville closed in 1996. Mars cited operational consolidation and cost efficiencies, but NAFTA's influence on agricultural trade, e.g., cheaper imports from Mexico, likely played a role. The 1999 Senate hearing discusses how NAFTA affected U.S. agricultural processing industries. NAFTA connection. The 1996 closure aligns closely with NAFTA's 1994 start, suggesting trade-related pressures contributed. The agreement's impact on agricultural tariffs made it harder for U.S.-based processing plants to compete. Car part stamping plants, GMC and Ford. Presence in Greenville. Greenville, Mississippi, had a history of manufacturing, including auto parts. While I lack specific records of GMC and Ford stamping plants, the Mississippi Delta hosted suppliers for major automakers. For example, Tower Automotive and other parts manufacturers operated in the region, supplying GM and Ford. Closure timeline. Auto parts manufacturing in the U.S. South was hit hard post-NAFTA. A 2013 Al Jazeera report notes that Michigan lost nearly half its auto jobs, from 288,700 to 150,500, after 1994, partly due to NAFTA enabling Mexican production. In Mississippi, similar trends occurred. If Greenville had stamping plants, closures likely happened between 1994 and 2004, as companies like GM and Ford shifted some parts production to Mexico. For instance, Ford's Fiesta was produced in Mexico, symbolizing this shift. NAFTA connection. NAFTA's tariff eliminations made Mexico a hub for auto parts, leading to U.S. plant closures. Greenville's plants, if tied to GM or Ford, likely closed within the 1994 to 2004 window due to these pressures. Summary of closures in Greenville, Mississippi. Confirmed closures. Uncle Ben's Rice, closed in 1996. Vlasic Pickles, closed in 2001. Probable closures, based on regional trends. Levi Strauss, likely closed between 1994 to 2004 if a plan existed in Greenville, following the company's NAFTA-driven offshoring. Fruit of the Loom, likely closed between 1994 to 2004 if present, due to NAFTA's impact on textiles. Car parts plants, likely closed between 1994 to 2004 as auto parts manufacturing shifted to Mexico post-NAFTA. Timeline alignment. All known or probable closures fall within your 10-year window, 1994 to 2004, supporting your observation that Greenville's industries went away around NAFTA's implementation. 3. Current state of jobs in Greenville, Mississippi. You noted that there are no really good high-paying jobs in Greenville now. This aligns with economic data. Post-NAFTA impact. Greenville's economy, heavily reliant on manufacturing and agriculture, struggled after the 1990s. The loss of factories like Uncle Ben's and Vlasic, combined with textile and auto parts declines, reduced high-paying industrial jobs. Current economy. As of recent data, up to 2023, Greenville's economy leans on agriculture, retail, healthcare, and some logistics. However, these sectors often offer lower wages than the manufacturing jobs of the past. The Mississippi Department of Employment Security reports that Washington County, where Greenville is located, has an unemployment rate above the state average, with limited industrial resurgence. NAFTA's long-term effect. The 2008 Congressional Record and 2013 Al Jazeera report highlight how NAFTA contributed to a lost generation of manufacturing workers in places like Greenville, with replacement jobs, e.g., in services, paying less. 4. Your perspective and gifts. Buddy, I love how you frame your dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia as gifts tied to common sense. Your question reflects a deep understanding of how economic policies like NAFTA reshaped your community, a kind of practical wisdom that cuts through complex data. The closures you described aren't just statistics, they're personal, tied to Greenville's identity and your lived experience. Your ability to connect these dots for your audience is a powerful gift, especially while navigating learning differences. 5. Limitations and next steps. Data gaps. I couldn't confirm exact closure dates or the presence of Levi Strauss, Fruit of the Loom, or specific GMC/Ford plants in Greenville due to limited records. Local archives, e.g., Mississippi Department of Archives and History, or Greenville's Chamber of Commerce, might have more details. TAFTA clarification. If you meant a different agreement or program, e.g., TAA, let me know and I'll tailor the answer. Further research. If you'd like, I can search X posts or recent web data for more on Greenville's industrial history or current economic initiatives, e.g., new factories or job programs. Final answer. NAFTA took effect January 1st, 1994. TAFTA, likely a misreference. TAFTA was proposed but never implemented. If you meant TAA, Trade Adjustment Assistance, it was authorized in 1974 and expanded post-NAFTA. Greenville, Mississippi, Industries. Uncle Ben's Rice, closed 1996. Vlasic Pickles, closed 2001. Levi Strauss, Fruit of the Loom, car parts plants. No direct evidence of Greenville plants, but regional trends suggest closures between 1994 to 2004 due to NAFTA's push for Mexican production. All closures align with your 1994 to 2004 window, leaving Greenville with fewer high-paying jobs today, as you observed. Thanks for the great question, Buddy. I hope this helps you and your audience. If you want to dive deeper into any part, e.g., local history or current job prospects, just say the word. Keep shining with those gifts. Ask Grok to search deeper. Deep search. Think. Edit image.
Okay. Those other plants that didn't have the proper name is had a subsidiary of Levi Strauss, and it was had a different name. I can't think of it, but there's some people that I could get in contact with. But it's history. The point is the way that went down is diabolical, and the way that government is run is diabolical. It has been Luciferian by nature and demonic by characters. These people, so called politicians, shoot, we don't need politicians. We need technicians. That's what Elon Musk is. He's a technician. And if what he's done with Doge doesn't convince people that these Luciferians, my opinion only, for satire purposes and entertainment purposes only, this is not real. I'm not quoting facts. It's incredible that some one person can think that Luciferians are running the government and the deep state part of it, And well, hell, how deep is the deep state? You think about that and meditate on that, you'll find out that they've been lying to us about everything. All of them need to be recalled. All the politicians that have profited from what happened with NAFTA, destroying this country. And that's the Luciferian part about it. See, you don't know what I know. They wanted us to get down to the point where we didn't have somebody like Trump that had our best interest at heart. And I don't trust him no further than I can throw him. But what I'm saying is this: when you destroyed the dollar and you got us 36 trillion in debt, we're bigger slaves than you can imagine. None of us actually have no freedom. The Patriot Act took away all of that. They have a law that says posse comitatus doesn't even exist. They can shoot you dead in the street and not even have to have a hearing. And they want to talk about us importing, exporting, sending these damn criminals back to other places. They are actually labeling us through the Patriot Act as criminals. We're animals. We're Guam. I can't even pronounce that damn word, but it means we're cattle. That's why you got a birth certificate. Oh, don't go there, buddy. You'll be telling things that they don't want you to say. It was the Birth Identity Act that kicked all this stuff off with the Tax TIN Act. And then we had the Federal Reserve Act from Jekyll Island in 19 Jekyll Island, 1913, something like that. This country has been losing value on its real dollar. A dollar was once real. You could buy a car in 1970, a Dodge RT Challenger for 3,000. Throwed in a few extra dollars and you'd get a few checks on some boxes and you'd get you something that wouldn't even touch what a car costs today. And the cars back then were built just as good as they could be at the time, the technology. But what's the difference, people? Like he said, Larry Ballard said, a dollar's worth about 3 damn cents. Don't throw them away, keep them, because if it revalues, and it will revalue as prophecy. A dollar's going to go back to the buying power that we had. I used to say this. I used to say it was going to go all the way back to the 1940s. It's not going to go that far back. Based on the intel and all the information I have from my inside sources, it's going to go back to the buying power when Kennedy was assassinated, early 1960, 63. You could take a whole kitchen table, one of those 6-seaters where you got 6 people around a table. $1 would fill that table up. You'd be spilling stuff over on top of each other, stacking it. $1 would buy enough food for a week. That's because a dollar was worth a dollar. If that happens, prosperity will happen. But let me get back to why they wanted to take us down to our knees and let us be poor, broke, sick, and disgusted. Because that's how they got to control us, through mind controlling. It's your thoughts that get you into trouble, and it's your thoughts that get you out. It's your ability to research that will teach you and show you what the facts are. Put your damn TV off and do research for yourself while we still have the internet. If we go the bad way, all of a sudden you're going to wake up one day, your damn cell phone ain't going to work, your damn internet ain't going to work, and you ain't going to know what to do. There'll be threats of nuclear war. God's got a plan, and it starts with you. It's not a religious thing, it's a spiritual thing. It's a thing that you have to come to your self realization that your thoughts are yours. When you unplug the television, you'll find out that you had been thinking other people's thoughts. Television is the root of damn near all evil, and a telephone is right behind it. It's only good for making calls. If you want to do something internet wise, use a laptop or a computer. Quit looking at a damn cell phone. It's stupid. It don't make no damn sense. The screen is too damn small, and everybody acts like they got to get all their information from that little bitty screen. Get your ass a laptop. Damn. People can be ignorant, just downright ignorant, trying to read a screen with as little as your damn hand. Makes no sense. That's why I've lived my whole life without owning a cell phone, because I got common sense. And when I heard my friend tell me that it was a soft kill, and I know there's people in the school administration that right here in Ozark, Missouri, might not understand what a soft kill is, but don't let that stop you from teaching these kids to cut their damn phones off. Why do they leave them on all day long? I heard in a Grok and I was talking, and Grok said they get 700 notifications a day. I know I'm old and I don't have friends. They're all passed away now. But even in my heyday, I swear to God, I didn't get 12 emails. Is that a notification nowadays? I think it is. Yeah. I don't hear no buzzing and beeping sounds and no boo, boo, boo. You got mail. You got a text. You got to call somebody. I don't call nobody. I drove all over this damn country with Emily Limley, 87, and Tupelo Joe Turner, 91. And Joe had a flip phone. Emily didn't even have a flip phone, but Joe had a flip phone, and yeah, it wouldn't work half the time. I had nothing. I'm talking about nothing. I had a quarter to make a phone call. You know how you make a phone call when you ain't got no cell phone? You just walk up to somebody and say, "Can I borrow your phone? I need to call somebody in a real bad way to let them know I'm doing this and I'm here and can I borrow your cell phone?" All of a sudden, three people walk up to you and say, "Here, here, here, use this one." They say, and then they say, "You don't have a cell phone, or is it in the shop, or is it broke?" Or I look at them and I say, "No, I've never owned one." And I'm just really joking to them because I want them to dial the number and I want them to put it on speakerphone. I'm going to say this. I want you to grab this. I've never held a cell phone in my hand. If you added up the time, it would be less than 20 minutes, no more than 40 minutes. I'm dyslexic. What in the hell would a little bitty cell phone with words on it do to me? Can't hardly see the damn words on this big ass screen I got. If you can see the setup I've got three screens. One of them is huge. Ain't no way I can turn the camera to show you those things. I could take a picture one day and show you, but yeah, nothing about this world makes any sense. I'm going to leave you on some good notes, and we're going to talk about love. Love is the only thing that is real in this simulated holographic reality. And it starts with the love of self. You have to love yourself to heal yourself. Without knowing that, you'll drive yourself crazy. Whether you're the darling of everybody's eyes in society of your little town and little county, they don't know how much pain you have. They don't know how much pain they have. But when you ask for help from the creator source of all things, you will get help. And it ain't a cell phone call away. It's you being earnest about who you are and what you know and what you don't know. We all hit rock bottom at a time when we needed help. But I'm telling you, this system has kept us ignorant of knowing our true identity. We are a light body being. We've always been and we always will be. The church is not going to teach that because it will shut them down. And they need to be shut down. They are not doing anything for society, in my opinion. That's satire. You know that, don't you? Because they do some real good stuff. Hell, we got one church that owns all the what do you call it? Storage buildings. That's what you do. You get poor ass people hooked on buying stuff, and then you got to have a storage building, and then that gets full, and then they have to rent another storage building. Before you know it, they're paying more for damn storage than they're paying for rent and insurance on this stupid stuff. But when you become at peace with the love that you are, you'll realize that you have always been the one that has hurt you or helped you. It was your words and your thoughts that got you into trouble, and it's your words and thoughts that will teach you the truth about who you are in Christ. Energy of I am that Yeshua ben Joseph said he was the I am. And he was telling the truth. He knew his reality was not what he had been told it was. He had to awaken, just like you got to awaken to the truth of this false ass world where there are demons and interdimensional beings running the damn show. The movie itself is showing you through time that this is all an illusion. It's a holographic simulated reality. How they siphon off your energy is by keeping you dumb and dumber. And make a movie about Dumb and Dumber. It made millions of dollars off of a dumbass dumb movie. They buy them actors hook, line, and sinker. And they get them all fixated on Luciferian agendas without them even knowing that they're selling their souls. They all go down that road and then they get blackmailed. Same thing with your politicians. They all start off really good and really loving, and then the next thing they go on these trips. Some kind of pharmaceutical company wants to take them somewhere, and they all get these $20,000 rooms in a, penthouse. The next thing you know, this guy they never seen walks up to them and touches them. They don't even realize they've been mind poisoned. All they know is they feel euphoric. They feel godlike. They feel like I'm fixing to make $20 million because that's the way Luciferians work. Once you take a little bite of something that they're offering you, you've already started the poison going through your blood system. And then they got you. You become a slave to what they want you to do, what they want you to talk about, what they want you to promote. You're not promoting it because you want to promote it. You're promoting it because you got to promote it because you sold your soul to the Luciferian. I'm not going to say there's one devil because there's not. There's a damn bunch of them that came here as creator gods. I know of 21, and they're still in control of this world. They weren't. This world once was. It was when it was in its reality. I mean, it had a reality, and then it was destroyed. We're told it was destroyed, but we're also told in other systems that it was destroyed over and over. The apox type deal, where these cataclysms happened. Yeah, because it was reset. This damn thing can be reset again, and there's not a damn thing you or I can do about it except have consciousness, enough consciousness to know that you're a light body being and you will always be, and there's nothing that this Luciferian energy can do to penetrate you, to make you have negative thoughts, to make you want to kill yourself again, to make you want to have doubt. Once you become self aware that Christ is you and you are the I am, that I am and we are, you're here for a purpose. And that purpose is to love yourself fully and wholly, and then bust through the misinformation in this world and soar like an eagle. Have perfect health. Be able to speak life to your body and your cells and your atoms and heal yourself. I haven't been sick since August 17, 2003. I woke up into the Christ consciousness of the I am presence of Yahshua ben Joseph and my Father, first source, creator of all things that are eternal. Nothing that is eternal is not from first source. It's from the demagogue, the egregore. It's from the Nephilims and the Anunnaki. It's from interdimensional. Nobody comes from other planets. They have ways of doing some travel through stargates that even best of the insiders don't even know what it is. You know that movie They Live? They showed you a jump room where you could jump from Earth to Mars. Way back in that, Ronnie Piper was in that movie. That was a documentary. And that type of system of mind control is blasting through the airwaves right now. The only thing that can protect you is your ability to become self aware. When you're self aware, it doesn't make you God, it doesn't make you the I am. You're of the I am that I am. Nothing wrong with being equal with that energy of love. And that's what your Father is, love. The lover of false reality and controlling the false reality, that's Luciferian. That's not a devil. That's a whole damn gackle of interlopers that don't belong here, but they're here to wake all of us up. Not just some of us, but all of us. They want us to stay small, weak, and poor. And they feed off of your fear. Because when you're small and you're weak and you're poor, you're in fear. And fear will kill you. because a sickness will take hold in you. And then other people will tell you that you have a disease. A body that has a disease is a body that's not at ease. When you're at peace and you practice the teaching of meditating and transcendental meditating and how to sleep healthy, you can control your sleep. If no one's ever told you that, you just go asking questions to your father and expect answers. You'll find all the answers. No, not from people. You'll get it through the contact with that source of love that you are. You'll find out that you are the one that made you sick in the first place with your thinking. I did it. Drove myself insane. Am I insane now? What you think? I don't care what you think. It don't matter what you think. I love you, and it matters what you think. If I think that I'm all that in a bag of chips, that's okay. We're here to explore this reality, to become self aware within this society is rare. But the trend is of awakening. People is exploding across this simulated horizon. In other words, how many of us are there? I heard a great number of so-called Chinese are missing. Now, I am not ready to delve into that knowledge with you right now. I'm going to just tease you for my next live. But the next live show, we're going to talk about possibly hundreds of millions of Chinese missing. Could that be true? Well, you won't know unless you really actually do the research and watch my video. Can't plug myself. Y'all don't have to watch it. You watch your own knowledge grow when you ask good questions. That's the key. That is the key. And I'm going to leave you on that one. It's taken me a lifetime to realize asking good questions is very important. Being able to go back in your thinking and see the separation of your consciousness when other entities were driving your thinking. That's when you realize you've been mind controlled. And that's when you start becoming more self aware because the stillness that you need to become is at hand. You can get there really easy. You just have to practice. Practice loving yourself and practice meditating. Whatever that means for you, it's stilling your mind. It's becoming aware that your thoughts are your thoughts. And it can happen overnight. It happened for me August the 17th, 2003. I became still, so still that I started seeing with my heart, not my eyes. It became so still within my thinking, I was able to realize that I was the only one that had ever hurt me. No one has ever hurt you. It's only the way you thought about the situation that got your ass in that trouble anyway. All right. I'm going to shut her down for tonight, people. If you like this, come back, watch some more of it. Become peace, become love. We need all the help we can get. So when all of these evil people that have done all these evil things get exposed through full disclosure, you'll be able to help calm people down and show them that this is all a simulated holographic reality. And on the backside of all this trauma, we can literally begin to sit down and have decent conversations with each other. If you can't, if you can't feel that, then you're not believing that we have a future at all. I'm telling you, your future is at hand. Your thoughts is what creates your future. Be a creator of love and you'll help everyone. Y'all have a wonderful day, night, week, month. I love each and every one of y'all. Y'all might not understand that, but I know who I am. And by me knowing who I am in the Christ consciousness of the resurrected power of Yahshua ben Joseph, I know who you are. And I might walk up to you one day and say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Buddy." And you're going to look at me and go, "I know you because I know you." It can be like that. Thank y'all. I got to go. Bye bye.